Kids versus cars. There were 9 of us, 7 kids, 2 parents, and 1 Chevy, sometimes called the land yacht. We were packed in tight. There was a kid in every seat, some on the floor, and one bold soul stretched across the back window shelf like a sunbathing marmot. We once had a station wagon that was so long you could stand in the back and feel like you were in a different postal code from the driver, and sometimes you were. Those were often long drives back then, and anyone who knows Canada will know that when a Canadian tells you something's only 8 hours from here, what they really mean is 8 hours per day. This was the pre-digital era. Long drives were arduous, boring, and downright torturous. We didn't have smartphones or video games to entertain us, no television in the car, while most cars didn't even have air conditioning. We had to find ways to entertain ourselves. Dad would roll down the big back window with a switch in that big station wagon, and we'd sit facing backwards, watching the world chase us down the highway. We'd find ways to entertain ourselves, like dropping grapes or strawberries out the back window to see how long they'd roll, or even better, if we could get one to bounce up and go right into the front grille of the car behind us. Sometimes we'd spit out into the wind of that big back window, and if you've ever done that, you know what happens. Goes about 4 feet out, catches the air currents, and gets fired right back into the car. So it became a game to try and time it just right to blow back and hit your sibling square in the face. We'd usually duck, and it would continue on and stick to the back of the rear seat. I know, gross, but kids aren't often associated with great ideas, are they? Now that was entertainment. Now these were the 1970s, and anyone who was there will recall back to the 70s road safety. It was more of a suggestion than a rule. We rode in the beds of pickup trucks like sacks of potatoes, with our elbows hooked over the sides, hair tangling in the wind. We rode sideways in the station wagon jump seats, or sometimes backwards, cross-legged in the flat cargo area. I remember standing in the front seat of an old Mercury my dad had. I was maybe 4 years old, while Dad swerved gently left and right to see if I could keep my balance. It was hilarious. Very illegal, but hilarious. I remember sitting on my dad's lap and driving that Mercury. Yeah, nothing like learning to drive at the age of 4. And one old car we owned had the sketchiest of windshield wipers. Mom and Dad flipped them on during a particularly rainy afternoon. Wipe, 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 then gone. With one spectacular fling, both wipers flew right off the car like a synchronized swimmer, quitting mid-performance. Dad drove the rest of the way home, squinting through water streaks. They once came out to a big black Dodge pickup they owned, opened the door, and instantly felt some sort of combination of nausea and dizziness. They were nearly knocked out by the stench, so vile that it physically registered in your nostrils like a slap. They searched and searched, tearing through the cab, searching for the cause of that tremendous stink, until Dad, finally giving in, reached behind the rear seat, and there it was, down between the back wall of the truck and the back seat, a package of hamburger, heat-cured beyond recognition, nestled in that space where nothing is ever kept, like a meat-based time capsule from past grocery runs. Then there was the $150 Chevy that Dad bought, had no trunk key, so he popped it with a screwdriver, and in the trunk, a full-sized inflatable rubber dinghy with paddles, worth more than the car. We used that thing all summer, and the car may have sputtered, coughed, and looked like an art project done in the dark, but it took us to the lake practically every time. Now, when Dad's last functional car decided to call it a day one time, he knew it was time to upgrade, sort of upgrade, to the best car he could afford, a Ford Tempo. Yeah, I know, Ford Tempo. It wasn't a great moment for my street credibility either, but only a few months after buying it, my brother Matt was driving it with my sister and some others, and they smelled something. It was off, kind of like burnt toast. Smoke started billowing out from under the hood. They pulled over. Everyone else panicked while Matt opened the hood and saw that he was not going to be able to put this fire out, so he calmly walked up the road about 40 yards, shoved one thumb in his pocket and the other one towards the sky, looking to hitchhike home like a man who just missed the bus. Then there was the Honda Civic from winter's darkest depths, a 1979 hatchback. One particularly snowy day in northern British Columbia, as Dad drove it, he found he was gradually finding it harder and harder to press the gas pedal or move his foot from the brake to the gas. He finally had to pull over to check what was happening. Turns out there was a rust hole in the floor. Snow had pushed its way up through under the floor mat, and as Dad drove, it was rising and rising like dough, and he eventually had to pull over and shovel the inside of the car out just to continue driving. He eventually sold it to a fellow who didn't have much money, but he did have big dreams. He said, "All I need is for it to get me to Vancouver." He got there. He drove it a few more months. Then one fateful day, while making a turn in downtown Vancouver, the car split in half. It just folded. And there he sat, all four wheels on the ground, and right between the front and back wheels, the floor, also lying on the ground. He said that he was lucky that it was a front-wheel drive because he was able to rev the engine and limp into a parking spot on the other side of the road and then continue to pump change into the parking meter while he waited for a tow truck to tow it away. At any given time, my parents' yard looked like the parking lot of a demolition derby. Half a dozen cars parked half alive, old projects, failed dreams, rusted dignity. My youngest brother had a VW station wagon, a 65 Squareback, I think they call it, and it no longer resembled anything the Germans had designed. The roof and back seats were all removed. Air-cooled engine was gone, and in its place, a Chevy V8 small block. And for cooling, he'd cut a hole in the back and mounted a refrigerator crisper upside down with the back cut out of it to act as an air scoop. It worked about as well as you'd expect. The power-to-weight ratio of this little car was amazing. When my brother accelerated, you'd take off so fast that you'd unavoidably swallow your gum. Too bad it didn't have nearly the stopping power that it did starting power. Therefore, riding in that car was absolutely terrifying. Then there was Thor, found abandoned at a local dump. This van rose again like a Norse god in a flannel shirt. My youngest brother and his friends jammed a battery into it, fired it up, and tore down the logging roads, jumping, sliding, drifting, and even crashing gloriously. Once they were done for the day, they left Thor stashed in the trees and went home. Some days later, they came back to find the land had been cleared of trees and Thor standing proud in the middle of an empty lot. My youngest brother also had a truck, a Chevy, naturally, that was jacked up with tires the size of moon craters underneath it. Dozens of salvage trailer lights from the dump all bolted up under the body and wired to a toggle switch. So when he flipped the toggle, it made an amazingly bright red glow blaze out from underneath the truck, slow roasting anyone within 20 feet from the waist down. Other switches that he had there did strange things. One made the headlights strobe, another flipped the high beams to wink, and one connected to a spare washer fluid reservoir aimed out the front grille. He'd squirt unsuspecting pedestrians in the crosswalk as they walked in front of him. No muffler, of course. You could hear that thing from 3 towns over. Pregnant cows went into labor just at the sound of it. Dad bought a VW van once. Back when that wasn't retro, it was just sad. Starter motor didn't work, so anytime we drove anywhere, he had to bring 2 of us along to push start it. One summer vacation, we got caught in highway construction. Traffic stop, engine dies. Jump out, push, start the car, jump in, traffic moves, traffic stops. Engine dies, rinse and repeat. 25 bump starts later, we arrived at our destination, like a pit crew from a much clumsier alternate universe. Over the years, there were engines that exploded, doors that refused to close, heaters that blew cold air, and seats that were more duct tape than upholstery. But every single one of us made it out alive, with all our limbs and at least most of our hearing. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little jaunt down memory lane about the cars that we love and that didn't love us. Take the time to hit the subscribe button if you don't mind, and leave a like and possibly even a comment. See you next time.